Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be drawing a portrait using charcoal, and as the title suggests, this video is all about a project where just about everything goes wrong. It basically all kind of started when I decided to buy this Nitrum Stylus charcoal holder. I've had my eye on it for a while and it recently came up on sale and I just decided to get it. I thought, how cool would it be to be able to use charcoal and not get it all over my hands. Now, as much as the idea of it was cool, practically it's a little bit less so. It comes with 4 hardnesses of charcoal. There's an H, HB, B, and the softest one is just labeled 6mm extra soft. And I started with an H, but it was a little bit too rough on the paper, so I jumped straight to B, thinking that I'd leave the softest one for really deep shadows I can add at the end. And the portrait is of a character from a TV show, so if any of you can guess who it's meant to be, just put it in the comments and see if you're right. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you probably noticed that unlike most of my videos, I started this one with the sketch already on the paper, which, by the way, is an A4 sheet of Bristol vellum. Now, spoiler alert, this is because I'm going to be drawing the same portrait 3 times over, each time starting from scratch. And I decided to only leave the sketching process in there once for you, because I'm using the grid method, which is kind of easy and self-explanatory, and all the fun stuff is what happens with the charcoal. I mentioned briefly when I started that this Nitrum Stylus isn't practically as useful as I thought it was going to be. This is for a number of reasons. For one, the charcoals they provide, they're quite thick and they're square. So for any kind of edges or clean lines, it's really hard to be able to get any kind of even lines out of it, because as soon as you use an edge it dulls and the lines get progressively thicker. And also it's just a little bit scratchy. I'm used to, I guess, much softer charcoals. So I started by putting down kind of rough lines, thinking I would blend them out, and I'm finding they don't blend very well at all. And this is almost the softest one that they've included in the pack. So the only one I haven't tried yet is the extra soft. So I mean, this is a B. This really should blend out much better than it does. But it is leaving marks, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. So I've decided to use the softest one, and I found that it doesn't actually fit into the stylus. It's too thick, so I don't know what the point of the stylus is if you can't put the charcoal in it. So I'm trying to hold on to the edge so as not to get my hands all covered, but we'll see how far I get with that. At least the color is definitely better on the soft one, and it is blending out much better than the other ones. All in all, I don't see that this is any better than the cheap willow sticks charcoals that you can get for a fraction of the price. I mean, guess I'm glad I got it on sale at least, otherwise I would have been a little bit more upset with it. And in my opinion, the charcoal sticks that fit into the stylus aren't very good, and the only decent one doesn't fit into the stylus. So I don't know, it's just my opinion, but if you were considering getting this, it's not really worth it. I'm trying to salvage it now by kind of softening up some of the rougher lines I made with the putty rubber, but it's just kind of erasing, and it's not really softening up the scratchy places that I made. So leaving it scratchy, trying to kind of add some little bit of contrast. I don't think I can give her any eyelashes on this. I just don't have enough of an edge, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to start again. Now, I decided that this drawing was going to be in charcoal, so I'm determined to give it another go. But I've decided to change the paper. This paper is actually made for charcoal. I'm hoping it makes a difference. it's a little bit rougher grained, so I'm trying to go really easy with the pencil here, just drawing my grid for the sketch and doing it as lightly as I can so I can erase it well. It's really easy to erase things on smooth paper, but when there's kind of a deeper grain involved, I'm hoping that it won't affect me being able to erase the pencil afterwards. The grid method for sketching is really easy and can be applied to just about anything. I've drawn a grid of 7 squares by 10 squares on my paper and on my reference photo. Now, if your reference photo is exactly the same size as the paper you're drawing on, you can actually measure it. But if it's not, then make sure you have the same number of squares, because then the sketch you're drawing can just follow the lines to where they land within that square, and makes it easy to either enlarge or reduce the drawing compared to the reference, and it's just really easy to follow. Essentially, I'm just looking at each square and thinking, oh, this line starts just sort of, I don't know, to the middle of this square and goes as far as this portion of this square, and just follow it along. Everything falls into place. I don't usually use the grid method. It's I don't know, it's not really a cheat, but you kind of you get the hang of drawing to, essentially to the point where you don't need it. It's a really good method for starting out, but because this is a portrait of someone who's like an actual person and should be recognizable, I was kind of nervous about mucking it up and decided to use a grid, which, considering the fact that I've had to redraw the same portrait over and over, it turned out really handy for me. At least in this case, it was really helpful to make sure that each time it looks kind of the same. I'm hoping that at least some of you will actually recognize who this is meant to be. But anyway, the next really important step of the grid is to actually get rid of the grid. So I'm using a really soft eraser to get rid of the kind of the big lines that aren't touching any features. And afterwards going in with a much smaller eraser to get rid of all the lines that are actually cutting through, like the eyes and the lips, and touching any part of the sketch that I'm going to want to keep. The sketch is very light. I don't press hard on my pencil because I want all the drawing to be done with charcoal, basically. And once the grid is erased, we're roughly at the stage where I kind of started the video from, with just a light sketch on the paper, and we're starting again. Now, I decided to take a slightly different approach this time. I'm only going to be using the really soft charcoal, and I've decided to grind some down, both to kind of give it an edge that I can use, and also so I can actually paint with the dust. So I'm dipping my a paper blender into the dust that I crumbled, and I'm using that to do some blending. I'm also putting down some of the actual soft willow, which is smudging a lot more, but I'm hoping for softer lines, because that's what I really didn't like about my first sketch, is how the rough lines of my initial sketching process kind of came through, and I wasn't able to soften them in any way. So this time I'm using my finger as well, which seems to be doing a better job of blending than the stump in some areas. Obviously, I don't want to just go and blend the eyes into a big smudge, so in some places I'm sticking to the paper stump, but in other places, like the larger portions of the face, I'm using my fingers to blend, and I'm getting messy because I figured this thing doesn't fit into the stylus anyway. I'm holding it with my hands. This is gonna get messy. It's charcoal. It's unavoidable. I do feel like I'm off to a better start this second time around. The skin feels a lot softer, and the shadows feel a lot cleaner, and immediately the contrast is just more visible. I'm definitely enjoying the process. I don't know whether it's the paper or the way I'm using the charcoal differently, maybe a combination of both, but it definitely kind of right away feels like a better drawing than the first one. The fact that it's so much easier to blend is actually helping me control the tones now. So I'm putting in slightly darker shades in the hair and deciding which bits of fabric are going to be kind of mid-tone, which are going to be a much deeper dark tone. And it kind of it really helps. It's when you're not struggling against the medium, the drawing process is much more enjoyable. Now that she's starting to come together, I can kind of see which areas need a little bit more contrast, or which bits are going to want some highlights, which the putty rubber is really good for when it comes to charcoal. So it really lifts it off really well. If you use a regular rubber, it just gets dirty quickly and then drags. But a putty rubber, I've just kind of rolled it into a really sharp tip, and I'm cleaning up a couple of places and just adding a few little highlights in on her torso and in the hair, and it makes the strands of hair kind of come out a little bit brighter. But as I'm finishing this kind of drawing off, I'm realizing that there is still something wrong with it. I feel like it's better than the first one, but I don't like it. I think I've made her jaw just a little bit too square and her eyes slightly uneven. It's better than the first one, but I'm still not happy, so I'm gonna do it one more time. On my last scroller box 100, came with a set of Derwent tinted charcoal paint pans. I don't actually know if they're charcoal or if they're just paint colored like charcoal. I'm not sure, but I'm swatching them out to see what the colors are like. And I thought if there was any way I could possibly get more detail, it would be to paint it. I know that there is such a thing as liquid charcoal. I've actually ordered some, but in the meantime, I thought if I swatch these out and see what they're like, see if they actually are charcoal. Now, funny enough, once they dry, when I swipe my finger across it, it lifts up and kind of feels dusty like charcoal. It leaves something like a residue on the fingers. So maybe it is charcoal, but it doesn't erase. But it's not quite what I was looking for. Now, this liquid charcoal I ordered has arrived, and this comes in 3 colors. They're calling it grapeseed black, cherry pit black, and peach stone black. And I'm swatching them out. They're definitely much more like charcoal, and I can see that they basically are, one is a warm gray, one is a cool gray, and one is a kind of neutral gray, if you can split them up like that. Now, I've done another sketch using the same grid method, and this time I'm using the liquid charcoals. I've decided to give it a kind of basic wash to start the kind of the undertone of the face and hair. And I've decided to use the warm gray for the face and hair, the cool gray for the clothes, and I thought if I get around to using the neutral gray, I'll put it into the background and then see kind of how it goes. Now, the immediately obvious benefits of liquid charcoal are that I can get the different levels of detail by using different brush sizes. I can use a massive brush for a quick wash for a base kind of layer, and I can use the really fine tiny little brush to do the eyes, and I'll even be able to give her eyelashes this time. The difference between liquid charcoal and just paint is the way it blends, or rather drags. It kind of moves around the page in pretty much similar way that dry charcoal does when you blend it, and it just moves around. So the amount of charcoal you put down in the liquid form, it doesn't dissipate as much. So if you want to blend it out, if something's too dark, you have to add water and then pick it up, lift it off, and dry it off on the tissue, because the amount of charcoal you've put down will stay there, and you either move it around or you lift it off. It's quite new for me. I've never used liquid charcoal before. I'd like to say that I enjoy the level of control I have with this more than with regular charcoal, but I'm still adjusting to how it works. Like I said, because it moves around, the brush strokes are more visible and you have to work harder to dissipate them. It does lift off. You can see where I've gone in with a clean brush with just water to create the highlights. But any areas that are kind of a little bit too wet they spread a little bit. So if you want to add layers, you have to let them dry. I did finally manage to give her eyelashes, and I generally like the level of detail I managed to get in the eyes using a small brush. I also quite like the fact that I was able to change the tone between her kind of skin and her hair and her clothes. So I'm using a cool gray, the cool color, for her clothes, which makes her clothes stand out a lot more from her skin and her hair. I've still got to add the kind of contrast and shadows into her hair, but I figured I'd put that different color into her clothes just to get the feel of it. As you can see, I'm still struggling a little bit trying to hide the brush strokes, but I'm starting to get the hang of it. This is definitely not like any paint I've ever used before. But it's good to try new things, and I was determined to get this done in charcoal. I did at one point think, should I just give up and draw in pencils, but I do enough pencil work to know that I can do this in pencil. I think using charcoal is just part of the challenge. And now that her dress has come together, I feel like the top part of the portrait is just way too light, so it needs a lot more contrast, and I'm thinking it's going to come in with the hair. Her hair needs to be slightly darker. I'm thinking I'm going to leave some light in there so I don't have to take it out with water. But as soon as I started with this big brush, I'm feeling like I might have slightly messed it up. I'm hoping that I've left enough light areas that that I can kind of have some highlights in there that look natural. But if I need to lighten things and kind of put more highlights in, I think I can still do that with water. Just because I had this third color of charcoal, I decided to use it and give her the neutral gray kind of background. I'm hoping that it kind of makes her stand out a little bit more, but as you see, I'm really struggling with the brush strokes. Like I mentioned earlier, this stuff just moves around and it's really hard to control. So at some point the brush dries out, so I have to either dip it in water or dip it in color, and I'm trying my best to get rid of the brush marks. But it is what it is. It's a new medium for me, and it's a little bit hard to control. So I decided to add a few more kind of low lights into the hair to make any highlights stand out a little bit better, and just see if it kind of comes together how I envisioned. At the end of all this, I can't honestly say that I'm too pleased with this drawing either. At least it's not how I hoped it would turn out. But I'm chalking it up to a learning experience, and I've decided to share it anyway because it's just part of art. Sometimes you create something that is exactly how you wanted it, and sometimes it just doesn't come out anything at all like how you expected. But it happens to everyone, and there it is. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more random art. I'll see you soon. Thanks, bye!